I'd like to call this meeting to order. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda is a moment of silence. Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason.
Here.
Trustee Reinders.
Present.
Trustee McNaughton.
Present.
Trustee Consolino.
Present.
Trustee Fialco.
Present.
Trustee Stylen.
Present.
Mayor Knightsky-Trokey.
Present. No, it's fine. It's fine. All right, moving on to letter E, community recognition. Tonight, we'd like to recognize Goodings Grove teachers Jillian McGuire, Laura Casanda, school nurse Carrie Gorecki, and Homer Junior High PE teacher Joel Button. Trustee Stylen and Trustee Reinders will be presenting them with certificates for this evening. It was recently brought to my attention that we have some wonderful District 33C employees whose quick actions saved 2 students from potentially life-threatening situations. I'd like to take a few minutes just to recognize these local heroes. First, I'd like to call up Goodings Grove's teachers Jillian McGuire and Laura Casanda and school nurse Carrie Gorecki. Ms. McGuire was teaching her 3rd grade class when she realized one of her students was choking. She quickly and calmly moved into action. She directed students to go get help and called 911. Another teacher who was close by, Ms. Casanda, became aware of the situation and quickly cleared the classroom and began performing the Heimlich maneuver on the choking student. Ms. McGuire then stepped in and took over, doing the Heimlich until the item was dislodged from the student's airway. Once she saw the student could breathe, she escorted the student to the main office where paramedics were about to arrive. These 2 teachers were equipped with the knowledge and skills to help the students thanks to the training by school nurse Gorecki just a month prior. Earlier in the year, Gorecki had successfully advocated for the district to purchase CPR anytime kits for all district schools. She also volunteered to train all Goodings Grove staff on how to use the kits, which included CPR, first aid, and the Heimlich maneuver. If it were not for Nurse Gorecki offering the training and the teachers' participation in it, this serious situation may have ended very differently. Ladies, we'd like to thank you for being proactive when it comes to student safety. With a heartfelt gratitude on behalf of the Village of Homer Glen, please accept these Homer Glen Hero Awards. Trustee Reinders.
One more.
Secondly, I'd like to call up Homer Junior High PE teacher Joel Button. Mr. Button was in the cafeteria when a student approached him, making a gurgling noise. Thinking the student was sick, Mr. Burton thought the student was, Thinking the student was sick, Mr. Burton followed him into the hallway. He asked, "Can you talk?" She shook her head no. He asked, "Could you breathe?" She shook her head no. At that point, Mr. Button asked the student if it was okay for him to perform the Heimlich maneuver on her. She nodded yes. After 2 or 3 attempts, the item was dislodged from the student's airway and she could breathe again. Thanks to Mr. Button's training and quick action, a potentially critical medical crisis was averted. Mr. Button, on behalf of the Village of Homer Glen, please accept our sincere thank you in this Homer Glen Heroes Award. Once again, thank you. Yeah. Thank you all again for keeping our kids safe. Next on the agenda is amendments to the agenda. Is there any amendments?
None from me.
Hearing none, are we approving the agenda? Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve.
I'll second.
As it is.
And I'll second.
I believe trustee Consolino made the second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders? Aye. Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Motion carries. Approval of minutes, May 24th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
I have a few corrections. Okay. On page 8 of 22, second paragraph, second sentence, states she is not comfortable with the reinventing the wheel. Could you please change that to she is not comfortable with the new board members reinventing the wheel?
Would that be all of your changes?
No, there's one more. There was one error. So on page 18 of 22, second paragraph, under trustee Consolino stated the invocation can be, can you please scratch that and change it to is non-denominational? And then it goes on to say non-denominational, and it is a shame that some people abuse it. Change abuse it to consider it not to be, please. And then the sentence after that says trustee Consolino does not feel that a few voices should outweigh the many, period. Not because. So after many, please place a period and just write that she has heard that residents were happy with the board doing it. And I have one more. I can't find it. If I find it. Oh, I'm done for now. Thank you.
Was that it?
On page 20 of the minutes, just under K, Mike Dean keeps referring to me as Rose instead of trustee Reinders. So if you could just correct that, trustee Reinders would be great.
Where is that?
It's on page 20 of 22.
Which?
Under public comment, on any other items, Mike Dean.
Oh,
Yes.
he said Rose, so,
Yeah.
got it. Okay.
That's all.
Who made the motions? Are you amending your motion?
Oh, I'll amend the motion to reflect the changes.
I'll second that.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Vote to approve, yeah.
Motion carries. We're now voting to approve the minutes as amended.
Yes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, Trustee Reinders. Is there any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye. Motion carries. We'll now move on to public comment. I ask that all comments be kept to 3 minutes. It seems like we have a lot of residents here today, so I'd like to hear all of your comments. First up is John Coy. Mr. Coy, are you here? Yes. I see him in the back. There you are. You got your timer?
Yes, we all know, or some of us know about Illinois American Water. We received a letter in the mail from them. And there's a couple spots which kind of bothered me when I received this from Illinois American Water.
Mr. Baber, can you check to see if his microphone is on? Okay.
Oh, there we go. All right. In the process of this, on this one page here, it's got, they're going to do some sanitary sewer smoke testing. The work will include a hydraulic flow, mainline and manhole inspections, as well as the closed-circuit television investigation. CCTV. I don't understand that one. Why is the TV involved with this? You know, and then there's another little part here that kind of makes me a little ticked off too. As part of the process, field personnel may be able to walk around the exterior of your home, and looking for signs of the stormwater from the downspouts, yard drains, sump pumps, etc., and make sure whether they are or aren't connected to the sanitary sewer. I've talked to a few people here tonight, and not one of them, one, received this letter. Why is it just certain people, certain places, or what's the deal? Does the village even know about this letter? I've talked to a couple of the trustees, and neither one of them knew anything about it. So I think it'd be to the homeowner's advantage, and probably for you, in case something happens with this, you know what's going on. So maybe you could get somebody to talk to Illinois American Water to find out what's really going on here and why everybody in the community doesn't get one of these letters.
Thank you, Mr. Coy. We'll direct Mr. Baber to follow up on those concerns. Jana Taka?
Yes, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jana Taka, and I've been a Homer resident since September of 1990. At that time, we were unincorporated. With incorporation, the philosophy was to live in harmony with nature, maintaining open space. I am currently in my 4th residence, living in the garden homes at Marion Village. I would like to share some of the concerns we have regarding the proposed Heritage Woods supportive community. First, please consider how this facility will impact the quality of life for Marion Village residents. Garden is requesting to build right up against our south pond. They have stated their detention ponds will overflow into ours. Will our pond's ecosystem be altered? Our vibrant pond life is maintained with routine water checks and algae control. It is a living pond, not a detention pond. Also, the ponds are used to water the lawns of the garden homes. Will that continue to be safe to do so? What will happen if there is a catastrophic weather event? Will the homes that back up to the ponds be flooded? Will the Village of Homer, Glen, and Garden take responsibility for this? One only must watch the evening news to know our turn is coming. In mid-September of 2008, heavy rains caused many of our roads and basements to flood. In July of 1996, there were 2 days of record rainfall, averaging 16.3 inches. Long Run Creek overflowed its banks. Area streets were impassable for days. Homes were flooded. This event became known as the Great Flood of July 18, 1996. Second, how will this facility benefit Homer Glen, since less than 4% of our residents fall below the federal poverty line and our median income is $110,000? It is not Homer residents who will be living there. Will they contribute to our economy? Marion Village residents shop, dine out, and bank locally. They attend area churches, use the library, and medical facilities. Third, emergency services. There then would be 3 facilities using EMTs daily. Would the fire department be forced to choose between calls? Would someone lose their life because of a delayed response time? Will homeowners be saddled with higher taxes to build an additional firehouse and equipment to meet the needs of all 3 facilities?
30 seconds.
Fourth, this is a replication of Marion's Village services already provided. Also, we would be hiring from the same limited pool of servers, maintenance workers, cooks, etc. Lastly, there will be an increase in traffic, light, and noise pollution, and a concern for safety. Like most budgets, this proposal looks good on paper. However, when implemented, it does not work out. If you have not visited the site in person, then you cannot make an informed decision. Thank you.
Barbara Taylor.
Hi, I'm an extension of Janet. I have photos that were taken after this last flood on July 12th of the 2 ponds that are on our property. And I'm going to give you the book that you can look to see how they were the day after the flood and how they were 8 to 10 days later.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Harold Kern.
Madam Mayor and the Board of Trustees, my name is Harold Kern. I am a resident of Marion Village, which is a non-for-profit senior living facility that includes independent living and assisted living housing. Marion Village does not draw any assistance from local or federal funds. I am a member of the Marion Village Resident Council, not employed by or receive any compensation for my involvement. The position of the council is solely to advise Marion Village management of issues of concern to the residents. We are concerned about building Heritage Woods Supportive Community, an assisted living facility adjacent to our property line at Marion Village. The impact of this proposed 120 resident facility could have major impact on our health and welfare of those of us already residing at Marion Village. There are currently over 300 residents living in our townhomes, apartments, and assisted living. Why did Lockport and other communities turn down this facility? The addition of this proposed facility would place an additional strain on the EMS services and local fire department, and the response times could be critical to those who require urgent care in emergency. It would add close to 40% residents, most of which would be considered assisted living. The additional wait times could result in life and death conditions. The residents, The residents of Heritage Woods would likely not support local community shopping and residents and businesses as we and other Homer Glen residents do. They would not add but take funding from local, state, and federal funds. The local labor pool would draw from an already strained, and there is much concern over the increased traffic flows on 159th Street, which is already very heavily trafficked. Entering and exiting Marion Village would undoubtedly become more dangerous due to the increased traffic
30
volumes.
seconds.
The addition of this facility would impact our eco-friendly ponds and environment, not only Marion Village, but the surrounding areas. We enjoy an open landscape, and that does not encroach on our neighbors. Any three-story complex would upset the openness of we all now enjoy. This is not an ideal piece of property to construct this facility. It is my understanding that the intention would be to attract residents who come from outside of Homer Glen and would not directly benefit its residents. We respectfully ask the Homer Glen Board of Trustees to consider rejecting in addition to looking for something that would be a benefit to all the residents of Marion Village. And I would like at this time to ask those of us from Marion Village that are present to please stand up and be recognized as opposed to this addition. Thank you.
Kathy Shaffer.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Shaffer, and I have been an active member of the Resident Council of Marion Village for 4 years. Our community, as our sign says, is a vibrant and a vital part of Homer Glen. Both our Resident Council and the American Legion Post 2011 that resides at Marion Village and host fundraisers that benefit our local schools, food pantries, Christmas Toys for Tots, along with many, many more charities. Also, we are a designated polling place, Precinct 10, serving our own community and the surrounding neighbors. Our residents are registered voters and keep informed of the national, state, and local elections. Marion Village has continually supported both the Village of Homer Glen and the entire township for 25 years. And we are now asking for your support to oppose this new construction. Help us to keep Marion Village the vibrant and vital community we have now and for our future and the future of Homer Glen. Thank you.
Ruth Collins.
My name is Ruth Collins. I'm from Marion Village. I've lived there for about 15 years, and previous to that, 11 years in Lockport. And I just have something to read. The county sheriff has supreme authority, the power needed to stop any unconstitutional actions at his discretion in upholding his oath, the oath to defend the Constitution. He can even forbid any officials from coming into his county to seize property, seize bank accounts, or levy fines. He can stop federal and state officials from blocking the use of your private property. He can stop forced federal regulations as well as the unconstitutional federalization of the counties and cities. And in the case of an assault against religious liberty, he can protect it at all costs. He can go against the federal government, any federal agency, state and local governments, and the courts when they go AWOL against the United States Constitution with mandates that are unconstitutional. His oath is to the Constitution and not to the others listed above. We have a constitutional republic based on the rule of law, centered around the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, not a socialist republic as we are becoming. And I just read this in order to reinforce the fact that sheriffs had more power than the President of the United States. Thank you. And if they get involved, maybe you can help us.
Sorry if I screw up this last name. Matt Lapala?
Good evening, Mayor, trustees, and village employees. Thank you for letting us speak tonight. I'm the president of the Stonebridge Village HOA, and the board unanimously opposes this development of Heritage Woods. Also, after speaking to some homeowners, they are opposed as well. The concerns are what was stated for the record from June 15th, Planning Commission meeting. High volume of traffic, density, height of the building, which if approved would set a precedent for future building developments. We feel that higher buildings are not needed in the village of Homer Glen. It takes away from the openness and semi-country of our community. Heritage Woods was declined by the village of Mokina because the Mokina board wanted to keep the Heritage Woods, was interested in as industrial. Northbrook Village Board declined their request for different requests, such as density, traffic, 4 lots into 1, change zoning from single family to senior, special residential zoning relief, building height. When the gentleman from Heritage Woods addressed the issues about Northbrook was denied, his answer was, not exact quote, but it's on the recording from the meeting, the developer was allowed to use our name. I do not know the reasons why this building was denied. I was not involved. Well, when you're putting your name out there in an LLC, you're accountable for what they're using your name for. You don't just turn your back. You know the reasons why they was denied. That I don't understand. Right there, the issue of red flag of dishonesty to the village board. His statements, as all statements from that meeting, are on record. When this gentleman asked a question from a planning commission board member regarding wanting to change to 65 and over to 65 and under to accommodate people with addictions, he didn't answer yes or no. He skirted the issue with, well, it would take a lot to do that. The Stonebridge board would like to know, what is Heritage Woods going to bring to the village of Homer Glen? How is Homer Glen going to benefit from Heritage Woods in a positive way? The people of Homer Glen want businesses that can give back to the community, and as residents, what businesses that they can go to for their needs and entertainment, such as nice restaurants and shops. The Stonebridge Village Board wishes to thank the Village of Homer Glen Board and Planning Commission Board for listening to our concerns. We hope you will decide that this facility is not going to be part of our community. Additionally, I would like to say on the mayor's and the trustee agenda was honoring our core values and preserving our charming rural character by protecting our open space from high-density housing. Thank you very much.
Jim Woods? James Woods? Okay, Tom McFarland?
Yes, good evening, board members and staff. Thank you all what you do for the village. We appreciate it. My name is Tom McFarland. I'm a resident of one of the garden homes in Marion Village. When we came here roughly a year ago, I liked everything about the townhomes that we're living in, with one exception, and that was safety. And I'm sure you're well aware of how difficult it is to make a left-hand turn from the Village Drive onto 159th Street. My wife threatens to get one of those masks that you put you put it on in the airplane so you'd be able to sleep. She would just take the mask and would put it on when we're making that turn and take it off when it's not. But that's not, even that is not the length of it. If you try to make a right-hand turn on 159th onto the Village Drive, it's an accident waiting to happen. You have to slow to make the right-hand turn there because it's 90 degrees and none of the traffic behind you slows at all, and it goes roughly 65 miles an hour, not the 45 miles an hour that's posted. But what does that have to do with the proposal? It has everything to do with it. We're going to put 1,200 units of traffic into our townhomes, and where we have roughly 300. So you're going to make 4 times the amount of adverse effect on this traffic with only going to get more so. We understand that the village has been unable to remedy these conditions because 159th Street is a state highway, it's Highway 7. But the board can do something, and that is to preserve the safety of its citizenry
30 seconds.
from the outlaws and adverse effect on traffic. I hope you'll give that consideration in your decision. Thank you.
Howard Martin?
No comment.
Patricia Martin? Lou Emke? I know you're in there, Lou. There you are.
Madam Mayor, trustees, village board, sorry it took me so long, but slow board China could have beat me. But anyhow, I'll make my comments brief. You have listened to many speakers tonight. I'm not going to go through all of that again and rehash it. But I do think, as the village board, and especially the trustees, you really should listen to the residents of Marion Village, who are also residents of Homer Glen, who have busted their hump working with Marion Village for over 25 years, being nothing but a great partner to this village. And I want to tell you, it's time to make a decision. We need the trustees to vote no. Thank you.
Pat Forgan?
Good evening. I'm Patricia Forgan. I'm a property owner of 159th and Parker Road. My family has owned that property since 1973, and I also own 13711 West 159th since 1996. We have an office there. I feel rather intimidated being up here, and I feel quite emotional because I feel like there's so much discrimination against this project. And I think I'm the only person here maybe speaking in favor of it because personally, I have two family members. They are, we are, Homer Glen people. My sister has been in nursing homes for a numbers of years. And I have another sister that is going through, well, she'll probably be in a nursing home of this care that they're doing at Heritage Woods. And my one sister she's on public aid, and she didn't come from a low class or bad family. That's just where the cards fell. And so she really has no money, and she needs to we need high quality care for people that are poor. And, we came from a family of 10, and my sister she's been in so many bad homes where she was abused, hurt, because they were low income. One that was the criminally insane. And when I heard that this was coming here, and my office is like right across the street, that I would be able to go and to visit my sister and possibly my other sister there, it was like, oh my gosh. I love Homer Glen. I love the open spaces. My father had a landscape business here. My husband was an engineer, and I'm trying to develop, our property at 159th. And sometimes I feel like some of the restrictions are really heavy-duty restrictions that Homer Glen has, and I just feel that having a project like this, I don't see how it could add any more to the traffic, because most of the time people are in this level of care, hardly any people go and visit them. I mean, that's the sad thing.
30 seconds.
So anyway, I'm just hoping that you maybe look at another side of this, and maybe look at, for the people that are, that don't have money, that aren't bad people, but just need a really high-quality place to live. Thank you very much.
Bonnie Willis.
I'm Bonnie Willis. Today I stand before you to advocate for Heritage Woods development. Buyers have spent over $500,000 into this project. They've worked with the village staff and engineers and various others for 18 months to come to a mutual agreed site plan between staff and the developer. Some concerns have been raised about competition in the area. If competition is a problem with the village, the future developers would not be interested in this town. But let's remember, we live in America, a land of opportunities and choices. Would we turn down a McDonald's just because a Burger King is nearby, or deny a Chick-fil-A because there's a Culver's? Competition enriches our community and economy. Traffic should not be a concern, since we know that growth is inevitable along the corridor. We should consider how it compares to the alternative, a sports complex, because it's zoned C6, with hundreds of kids, more traffic and noise, or a shopping center with trucking to transport goods in the evenings. The sellers of the land are not just outsiders. They are fellow Homer Glen residents and business owners for many, many years who intend to reinvest and expand their local business when they close on this property. Our town takes pride in caring for seniors, and this development aligns with that vision. Not all seniors can afford exclusive retirement communities, and this project aims to offer a quality local facility that supports an aging population. Heritage Woods provides an option to our seniors who may outlive their resources, offering them a sense of comfort by keeping them close to home, surrounded by familiar surroundings and their normal doctors. Options make for better care. If we do not pursue this development, what will become of this property? It is zoned C6, and alternative possibilities may not be as appealing. Voting yes will encourage other developers to invest in our community, leading to further growth and opportunities. The board should show they can approve developments if you want to develop the village. This project will give us density without impacting schools and traffic. I leave you with one last note. This project was presented to the board 18 months ago in a recommended workshop, of which 3 of the current trustees were present. I would have expected that during the 18-month period that any concerns regarding this project would have been addressed to either staff or the developer. Continued communication with the village encouraged the developer to move forward and not stop. How do you feel a senior living facility will cause negative impact to our village? There's no traffic. If you vote no, what do I tell a future buyer, because they're planning to sell the property, why this property was off the market for 18 months and failed to be approved by the village? What message will that send? Will this devalue their property? Let us embrace growth, competition, and progress. A yes vote will not only show your heart for all seniors, but also pave the way for a more vibrant and prosperous Homer Glen. Just as a side note, restaurants will bring traffic.
30 seconds.
There are 30 commercial properties in Homer Glen, 17 on 159th that are open for development. So this does not hinder future development of restaurants and what people are asking for. Thank you.
Ed or Barb Olson? Okay. Margaret Brown?
Hello, my name is Margaret Brown, and I have the privilege of working in the town which I live. My employer happens to be Marion Village. I want to share my concerns about the viability of the supportive living within Homer Glen on tonight's agenda as ordinance number 23-043. If the Board of Trustees agrees there is a need within Homer Glen for a supportive living and that this will satisfy the requirement for IDHA affordable housing, I urge the board to ask about staffing ratios. I believe this is what Pat was referring to when she spoke of her sisters in nursing homes and the abuse that is there. A location of a building does not change the staff that are brought in and the quality of the care. The staffing ratios can. How many hours per day is a nurse under duty? What is the staff to resident ratio? Is staffing agency utilized? These are all large factors in quality of care. A building is made, but a community is grown by the people who live and work there. If the concern is Homer Glen residents who have spent their funds at another assisted living, as previously expressed at the Planning Commission meeting, Marion Village residents have access to a benevolent fund that is managed by the Franciscan Sisters of Chicago to help care for residents who outlive their fund, covering their living expenses as well as their care in our assisted living. This is without drawing on any state or federal funds. We partner with our sister community in Lamont to ensure that if they exceed our care license, they have another community with which they can transfer to and continue to be cared for at the level they require while still having those services paid for by the Franciscan Sisters, and again, not drawing on state or federal aid. I asked the Board of Trustees to deny this concept in Homer Glen. It has not been proved to fulfill the requirement for IDHA, with the fire impact fees and taxes unlikely to cover the burden of a supportive living on emergency services. The cost for services and improvements required may be passed on to other Homer Glen homeowners. I thank you all for being here, listening to our concerns, and asking the questions to continue to educate yourselves about senior living.
Thank you. That's the end of public comment. We're now moving on to reports and communications from the president and other officers. Carmen, you're up.
Thank you very much. All right, so we got some fun stuff going on. We got movies Under the Stars, The Goonies this Friday. It starts at 6:30. There will be additional concession stands available for purchase. And bring your blankets, lawn chairs, bug spray, and have a good time. Another thing is coming up is we have a pop-up event coming August 3rd from 4 to 7 in Erin Hills Park. They're going to do bubbles and all kinds of fun stuff out there. It's like a big park party. So if anybody's interested, it's August 3rd from 4 to 7 at the Erin Hills Park. We also got one of our largest events is Chalk It Up. Staff has asked that if we can get you guys to register early, that helps facilitate a lot of things. It is a $5 registration. We will be starting check-in at 9 a.m. on Saturday, August 5th. That's all I have to report.
Carmen, would you mind reporting on Trentina Farm for us as well?
So as of, I want to say 6 o'clock this afternoon, we did find 5 piles of dirt dumped on Trentina. Trentina has been at a halt with the IEPA for the next 30 days, and Westcott and I were just out there before this board meeting to see there was a few piles of dirt out there. Email has been fired off to the township so we can get some clarification what's going on. That would you?
Well, I think many of the trustees were unaware of why it was brought to a halt, so I think...
okay, so the issue with Trentina is they were disturbing more than an acre of dirt and needed to get a permit to do that with IEPA. It actually measured in at 1.05 acres. That's over the threshold, so they needed to get a permit. So the EPA was out there to measure, along with some staff members, along with the township. It was determined that it was over that acreage. They needed to apply for that permit before they can do any more dumping, and it's on a 30-day halt. And that's where we're at with that. So.
Thank you, Carmen. All right, moving on to the trustees. Trustee Consolino.
I don't really have any report tonight except to state that the Environment Committee is still accepting applications if anybody is interested in joining our lovely committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. Trustee McNaughton.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders.
Reporting for the Parks Committee, I would just like everybody to know at our recent Parks meeting, we discussed at length the Veterans Memorial. A comparison was shown to the committee outlining the difference between the tree architecture proposal and the Touch of Green proposal and the future location of the Veterans Memorial. It was unanimously agreed upon, once again, that the committee would like to move forward with the design from Touch of Green. The committee agreed to move the memorial to a more appropriate location closer to the village community room for access. We agreed to forego some of the statues in lieu of maybe adding other plaques and other memorials representing, for example, the Vietnam War and other memorable battles in history. Village Engineer Westcott informed the committee that with the amount of bricks that the committee will be putting inside of this memorial, it could generate upwards of $600,000 that would be appropriated to basically take care of the maintenance of the memorial and any additional plaques or signs or any additional statues that we would like to put in there. In my conversations with Mayor Trike, she requested that a pavilion be constructed near the memorial to provide for future events held with the veterans and any other organizations that would like to use it. At that time, we are having a workshop this afternoon here, or this evening here tonight, so you will see the area in which we are proposing for a pavilion and the actual Veterans Memorial in proximity to the Village Hall. Another thing that we actually talked about on a committee level and discussed at great length again was the splash pad. We know that the splash pad is something that is very, very much needed in the Village of Homer Glen, and it's wanted. We had, for months, Carmen Morella and staff members and myself, we have been looking and racking our brain at an area in Heritage Park where it would be appropriate for the splash pad. Carmen Morella and Village Engineer Westcott informed us that Sendra Park, which is in Woodbine, actually has all the necessary electric, sewerage, and parking that would be appropriate to put a splash pad in that area versus Heritage Park. So that was one of the things that the committee discussed, and everybody agreed that that would probably be the best way to move forward because it would actually save us a lot of money. We did not qualify for the grants that we had hoped for, so moving forward, we're going to continue to apply for some things with the state to try and get some help with paying for the splash pad. We're also going to hold a benefit so that we can actually start to raise funds. So we want the village to participate in this. We talked about putting some thermometers outside to show how much money we could raise for the actual splash pad itself. So we want to move forward with that. The other thing about Sendra Park is that there was ample parking there. There's actually a parking lot, and there's a lot of parking along the street there. So we kind of think that that would probably be the best area to utilize the splash pad. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Mason?
I know that Lieutenant Taylor's on vacation, and we appreciate everything he does in the Will County Sheriff's Office. There's a lot of misnomers and fallacies on Facebook and social media about things that happen in Homer Glen, and he keeps us abreast of it. So I just want to let you know that you guys are doing a great job at the Will County Sheriff's Department, and if something major transpires, we will be the first to know and advise you as well. That's it.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. Trustee Fialco?
Thank you, Mayor Anaiski Trike. I just want to let everybody know with the fest, we had applied for a grant also, and we were turned down for that grant. We're going to be reapplying, but we're still looking for an exact answer why it wasn't, for the amount of money you asked, why it wasn't kind of like, give us another number instead of the number we were asking for, do something besides just say no. So it was a complete no, and we're working on that already for next year, but that was rejected. Other than that, I have nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fialco. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, the Community Development Committee met for the first time this past month, and we're just starting to get going, and we are still accepting members. I was given a few names of people to contact, and just look forward to some items from us in the future.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Madam Clerk?
Nothing.
Village Attorney?
No report.
Public safety officials? Nothing? All right, then now it's me. We put our veteran signs out front for parking. I hope you guys utilized those today. I saw some veterans here today, so I hope you saw those signs and used those parking spots. As the chairman for the Ability Awareness Committee, we have a back-to-school social coming up on August 11th at 5:30. It's right before the movie in the park. It's just a little social. We're doing some raffles, $100 gift cards to Chesdon's. We have 5 of those we're raffling off, and we're just going to give some back-to-school supplies for the young adults in our community with special needs. Carmen, would you mind giving us an update where we are with our grant writer, since it seems to be we're having an issue with grants?
So it's been posted, and we haven't had any hits yet, so it's been posted.
It's been posted?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And that's all I have to report. Consent agenda. Consider for approval the accounts payable for the period of July 14th, 2023 through July 27th, 2023 in the amount of $112,945.89. 2, consider for the approval of the treasurer's report of cash and investments for the period ending May 31st, 2023. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Fialko, Trustee Consolino. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders. Aye. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Motion carries. Legislation and action items. Variances for 17358 Bruce Circle in connection with the property at 17342 Cedar Road. Do I have to really read all? Oh, boy. All right. Consider for approval ordinance number 23-040, a request for a variance to increase the maximum aggregate square footage of accessory structures from the allowed 800 to 1,200. And number 2, a variance to permit an accessory structure in the front yard where accessory structures are not permitted obstruction. 3, a variance to increase the maximum height of accessory structure from 15 to 17 feet for certain real property located in the R3 Single Family Residence District at 17358 Bruce Circle in connection with the property at 17342 Cedar Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, HG 2313-V. And I'm going to pause right there.
Okay. So let's take A now, and then we'll take, so let's take A first.
I'll make the motion on
I'll
it.
second.
Trustee Fialko and Trustee Reinders. Trustee Fialko?
To look at this, we had something similar to this happen only a couple meetings ago. Taking this into consideration the same way, this is a pretty big structure. It's a bigger piece of property. What I did notice is it does have a lot of that tree buffer that is on Cedar and on Bruce Circle. So looking at that buffer there, I don't see that it would cause that big of a problem with it being there, but I do have concern about B, which we'll get to later. This property is a huge piece of property. I believe it talks with the 4 parcels that are involved with it. The only thing I'd like to know is the petitioner here, by chance. If you want, you could step up to the podium, but your plans for using it, obviously it's none of my business what you put in there, what you're going to store, but there are no future plans to run a business out of that structure though, is there? Okay.
No, not at all.
That's what, okay, I just wanted to be sure. We want to be sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for that. The Planning Commission on this, on A only, it was unanimous for it, and again, it's very similar to one we just approved a meeting or 2 ago. And that's basically all I've got to say on A.
Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Trustee Reinders?
Basically, I'm just going to reiterate what Trustee Fialko said. Basically, I read all this, and actually, the Plan Commission was in favor of it. I know that there were several residents in the area that were opposed to this, but after looking at the area, there are other residents in that area that have separate garages as well. So, and I know that this one's going to be a little bit higher, but it's just separate, and the trees are blocking it. So, normally we wouldn't approve for something to be that close to the front of the property, but with the trees blocking it, it doesn't seem like it's at the front. So that was my only comment.
Thank you. Trustee Mason?
Been by there quite a few times. I live down the street. You have a beautiful home. You take care of your property. You have a perfect fence the way Trustee Fialko loves them, a post and rail. I see no issues with it, with the tree buffer. You have it on both sides. Your lot is unique, as your backyard is really your side yard. I see no issues whatsoever, and thank you for keeping such a beautiful home.
Trustees, thank you. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I pretty much agree with what's said. It's a very well-maintained lot, and it's a large lot because it's two lots combined into one. What makes it difficult is because it's a corner, so it's deceiving what's the front and what's the side, but I have no problem with the size.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Trustee Consolino?
I know there were some resident concerns about the height, but when driving by, could see the trees that buffered. Also, Planning Commission was okay with this, so therefore I'm going to go with their opinion as well.
Thank you, Trustee Consolino. Trustee McNaughton?
Yeah, I too drove past the property. It's a great area, great lot right in the corner there. The addition of 400 square feet in total, it's still only 30% lot coverage, so I'm happy with the situation.
Thank you, Trustee McNaughton. I just wanted a clarification. How many residents opposed this? I was told one.
There were several.
There
were several on there.
I'd have to read in here specifically, but my memory serves that there was
That's- I
more
was
than
just
one that
curious.
spoke,
I was
though.
told one,
Yeah.
And I think after the meeting as well, Melissa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, any closing statements from the trustees?
May I add something? I just want to clarify that we separate these two because the Plan Commission does not make a recommendation on the materials, because in the ordinance it brings it right to the board. We've been through this, right? So the first one, if it's just to clarify, same thing happened with the last one that was in the front yard. There's a condition that the Plan Commission made on it to match, that had to meet code for materials. So the applicant is still requesting to use a material that's not allowed within code, so just making sure that we understand that if, as it was read, there's a condition on that original variance that came from the Plan Commission that says it meets code. So that's going to directly tie in to the second variance request, just to clarify. Like if this is granted the way it's written, it's going to be in conflict with the next one, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
Aye.
Trustee Reinders?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Consolino?
Aye.
Motion carries.
May I ask a question, though? Just by what was just said and what was clarified, by us approving A, there's no reason to go to B, because now you have to build the structure with the materials that is per the code. Correct, Paul?
Yeah, I just.
That's what Melissa just explained.
Right, and now that we did it, though, I'm just saying we don't need to go to B, correct?
Correct.
Well, unless you plan on waiving it or something, or overriding it.
No.
No, we're requesting it go by code.
So I think we should just read it, and if I understand,
Just no motion.
It would be a variance to A.
right,
As
so
approved.
we'd have to make yes, so we can't, because we approve, if we just approved A 6-0 with the condition that it meets code. I'm assuming that the petitioners are okay with that?
The petitioner, following Plan Commission, even though they recommended it meet code, which is masonry with the balance meeting the fiber cement siding, or a material that Joe would be okay with, right? So that's what Plan Commission recommended, but the applicant is still requesting that he can do masonry along the base and the balance be the metal panels.
So we do read.
It would not meet code,
So
right?
we do read B for a vote.
He's requesting that be
I think we
looked at by the
Then we should read it, and vote.
All right, moving on to B. Consider for approval ordinance number 23-041, a request for approval of a variance from the exterior construction standards of 75-67A of the Village of Homer Glen to permit metal siding on an accessory structure over 225 square feet in lieu of the required fiber cement siding for the remaining portions for certain real property located in the R3 Single Family Residence District at 17358 Bruce Circle in the connection with the property at 17342 Cedar Road, Homer Glen, Illinois, HG-2311B. Is there a motion? This motion is to allow for him to have metal siding on his building.
So this item will fail for the lack of a motion. fails.
Okay, well, I just want to make clarification. So you guys are okay with him not having metal siding?
There's
Okay.
nothing before us to discuss.
Okay.
I don't know if it requires an explanation from the petitioner, no? Okay.
They can call Melissa tomorrow and get an explanation.
Okay. Moving on to number 2.
So just to be clear, B fails for lack of a motion.
But the reason why I was asking is because I thought the petitioner wanted metal siding.
No.
Oh,
Let's just move on to 2.
he did, is what I'm understanding.
That's correct. He was requesting a variance from the current code to use metal siding on this
Correct.
structure.
We don't have an item before us now.
But what I'm saying is, there was some clarification earlier today, because from what I understood, some were okay with the metal siding. And that was, Baber's recommendation was that he was okay with siding, correct?
The size of the structure and based on past board
Is your microphone on?
It is, I'm sorry. Based on historical approvals for these type of structures, we have allowed metal siding on structures in lieu of the cement board siding.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, okay, because I was totally...
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is there any reason you don't want to go with hardy board versus a aluminum siding, so to speak?
Well, we personally like the look of the metal, more traditional with our older home. And cost-wise, it's...
So we don't have a motion in front of us right now, unless you motion to have discussions, and we can't have discussion without a motion.
Thank you.
So there's no motion, nobody's motioning to hear this.
Well, you know what, now that things have changed a little bit, I'll make that motion.
Well, there's nothing there.
Well, there is.
We can go right back to it. We're not
All right,
to the next
Trustee
one.
Fialko made the motion. Is there a second?
Just so we can...
I'll second.
Okay, Trustee Consolito. Trustee Fialko, go ahead.
What I'd like to say is, we had something like this similar, and what I'd like to do is, we kind of met you halfway, right? As far as the structure, you're in the front, you're not behind your house, right? And we just had one very, very similar to exactly what you wanted. Now, if your structure was behind your house, and you wanted to go with the metal combination, I could kind of see that. But the few extra dollars you may invest in it, because it's a lot of square footage of metal, right? But you're investing in yourself. And so for your neighbors who weren't exactly happy, not that that should completely matter, but the thing is, it is in the front. It's going to be the facade. It's basically in the front of your house. It's not hidden in the back from everything. And therefore, I would think, you would be helping yourself by using the better materials, and Joe could help you along the way to do that, what would fit best for kind of like what is expected from the village code. And I know my father-in-law had several pole barns, and several barns similar to yours, and I understand it's easier to do it that way. But I still think with the location of it, unless you were going to put it in the back where it isn't that big structure in the front, and I kind of agreed with you because your trees are the buffer, right? But you helping us out and kind of saying, okay, well, it's going to cost me a little bit more to do the other siding now, but that's an investment in yourself and in your own property, right? And so I would think that would be better for you in the long run, and it also kind of helps us out with that being right in the front. Do you kind of see where I'm at with it not being in the back, and it's kind of your front structure now to your street?
Well, it's just technicality that it's my front yard, because when I put the lots together, the smaller portion of the lots become the front yard.
Okay, but
So
technicality
my
or
front
not,
yard
that's what it is
cedar.
at this point, right?
Yeah.
I mean...
Melissa knows all about why that
I
became
understand,
that way.
and so that's why I would ask you to kind of work with us on this and make it better for yourself, better for your neighborhood, only because it's in the front, and we said, go ahead and do it, it's a bigger structure, we did that for you, right? And now maybe you can help out by, just kind of working with Joe to meet that requirement, where it's going to look nicer for you, your resale value is going to be higher, and the communities, everyone's happy, right? That would be my point.
Thank you. Trustee Consolino, you made the second.
I apologize, I don't have much of a voice tonight.
Okay.
As I have asthma, but I am, we just dug our heels in recently on the same type of issue about the siding, so I would rather just stay consistent.
Not only was the siding, it was in the front.
In the front, and it was exactly, it was in the front, so it was similar circumstances, so that's.
Thank you. Trustee Reinders?
I just feel that we've actually gone ahead and approved the building and in the variance for the larger size of the building, the height of the building. I just would hope that you could just work with the village to follow the ordinances for the actual materials.
Thank you, Trustee Reinders. Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, well, my thoughts were that this is a large structure, and it'll almost look like a separate home in its location, and there's a really nice brick house right next door. So I just thought that the siding and everything should meet our exterior construction standards. It'll make your neighbors happier, too.
Trustee Mason?
I agree with all the trustees. I think, again, you have a beautiful home, and I agree with Trustee Fiocco. It kind of looks like, even though we know it's your yard because of the way it's set up, I just think Hardy Board would be perfect. It's an investment in yourself and your house, and I think you're doing nothing but improving the area, and if you could work with us, we'd appreciate it. I don't mind that it's a bigger structure. I don't mind that we're passing the other variances. I just think that I've seen other ones pass, and in fact, my own father-in-law did it, but it was 450 yards deep into his property where you couldn't see it. You do have to take in consideration your own neighbors.
Trustee McNaughton?
Really nothing else to add at this point. Congratulations on achieving the first variance. I think that'll be a great addition for you guys. I'd be interested to see what you come back with after working with Melissa and Joe and revisit this.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Well, can I just clarify something?
Sure.
As far as I know, Joe, it doesn't have to be revisited for what he chooses as long as he's following the code and working with you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So we're going to go no.
Madam, so now we're voting on B. Madam Clerk, please call the roll for B.
Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Mason?
No.
Trustee McNaughton?
No.
Trustee Fialko? I already called you, sorry. Trustee Stylen?
No.
And Trustee Reinders?
No.
Motion failed. Number 2, consider for approval ordinance number 23-043, a request for 1, a preliminary plat of subdivision, 2, a map amendment from C6 commercial recreational to R6A attached single-family residential for Lot 1, and C3 general businesses for Lot 2. 3, a special use permit for a planned unit development with certain exceptions and conditions. 4, a special use permit for an assisted living facility on Lot 1, and 5, a site plan for Lot 1 for certain real property generally located in the C3 Commercial Recreational District at 13750 West 159th Street, Homer Glen, Illinois, case number HD-2213-APUD. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Trustee Consolino, is there a second? If there's no second, then...
I'll second.
Trustee Mason? Trustee Consolino? Do you want me to read something for you or anything?
No, I apologize that I'm under the weather tonight. I did go see the site location. I do remember going through a lot of the plans when it first came before us and the changes. I'm going to answer at the end and see what gets addressed by some of the other trustees on the notes that I've taken. But when it comes to what I've been hearing from our public, you know, with the pros and the cons, Planning Commission did vote against this proposal on June 15th. You know, they're asking for variances that encroach literally onto the wetlands that surround the proposal. We already do have issues with flooding and drainage, and with that being a wetland, you know, I have concerns. We did look into different angles about if this falls under the Affordable Housing Act. Unfortunately, we can't prove or demonstrate where it would match the qualifications that would meet under the Affordable Housing Act. This is due to the constant fluctuations with residents coming and going and their income brackets. You know, a lot of questions about where do these people come from? We were told today, correct Melissa, or Sue, we were told today that, they could put people from Homer Glen kind of as more of a priority, but in all reality, with all these other facilities, 80% of the residents are coming from a 10 to 12 mile radius. This is what was stated at the Planning Commission. With that, the other thing is that it's mostly for low income, because I had asked questions from the developer and the buyers about what was necessary for applying and getting the HUD funding, because it's HUD funding and Medicaid funding. And by that, they told me it depended on the total amount of equity infusion that's needed for the project, the number of apartments that need to be occupied by a low-income resident range from 80 to 100%. So I know that there's a lot of hope for this being available to our residents, but if 80% of the residents normally come from a 10 to 12 mile radius for all these other sites, I don't really think that this is going to give the number of opportunities that people in Homer Glen think it would for their family members that might be on Medicaid or would fall into the low-income bracket. There's also the parking lot request to condense from, am I correct, Melissa, from 144 spaces into 60. There's no suggestions for traffic calming. There will be no stoplight. You have people concerned both from Stonebridge and from Marion Village and from, I think it's Loyola Medical Center over there. Tonight I'll be taking all of this into consideration, but these are some of the factors that I've been working on. And I did go visit the facility with Trustee Stylen yesterday. It was very nice. It was very clean. And we went to the Plainfield location. So for now, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Kinsley. Trustee Mason?
I look at a 10 to 12 mile radius as being our residents, neighbors, friends, relatives. I do have a heart. I feel for the low income. God forbid something would happen to somebody that was elderly, that lived in Marion, who ran out of funds. So I think about those things. Somebody made the comment that we take pride in our seniors, and we definitely do, and our vets. I just pray that they don't outlive their resources and need these types of facilities. We talk about 159th Street doing 65 miles an hour. I think if you have more traffic on there, it probably wouldn't be the worst thing, because that's what it was developed for. As we move down on 159th Street, all of those big vacant spaces eventually are going to be retail. People are going to be pulling into and out of, and traffic is going to increase regardless. I don't think we can stop growth. It's inevitable. And I don't mind helping elderly or seniors or the poor. I read that the reduction on the spaces was due to not having a lot. If you looked at the sheet that pointed it out, they gave a consensus on how many parking spots were utilized during the time periods, and I don't even think it ever hits that. It was closer to like 30, 32 at the peak. I appreciate everything that the Marion Village residents said. We care about you guys too. I think it is so far set back that it really isn't going to impede on the Marion Village property. I think you may look at, okay, I may be wrong, but I've driven by there, I've looked at it. Right now it's overgrown, beat up, and not in use, and that's all I have to add at this time.
Thank you, Trustee Mason. I will ask that everybody please respect the trustees, as they each have a time limit to speak. We allowed you guys to speak, we just asked that we are the same. Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I did look at the facility, as Trustee Consolino said. We have in the census data, like over 4,000 residents that are over 65, and another 6,000 to 7,000 that are between 60 and 65. So we have a lot of residents in this village that could potentially be in this situation. You might say that there's only 4% or 3% poverty level, but when you get to be 80 years old, a lot of things can happen along the way to your income, and we know that a lot of baby boomers haven't planned well. Also, the other people, one of the statements is, what would this bring to the village? Well, as we heard from, I think her name was Barbara Morgan, or Patricia Morgan, a lot of people have relatives that their parents may not live in Homer Glen, and they would like to bring them closer and be able to keep an eye on them, and this would be a solution for that. So I feel for these residents. I do feel the concerns of Marion Village, that you feel threatened a little bit, but this is not a competitive situation. These, after looking at the home in Plainfield, and if you were looking for a place and you could afford it, you would definitely choose Marion Village. I do want to question about the flooding. Is that a natural pond that's in Marion Village? Do we know that?
I believe that's their stormwater pond. Is that correct, Brett?
Yes,
Although it may look naturalized.
Okay, so I'm just trusting that, and maybe if there is flooding issues in Marion Village because of that pond, that somehow when these ponds get developed at this site, if approved, we could work on those flooding issues at the same time. Other than that...
Trustee Stylen, I think you could look, there's an exhibit, I included Marion Village's PUD, the original, and you can see the constructed detention ponds on their PUD.
Yeah, no, I saw that they're getting 2 ponds, but the Marion Village residents were saying that their pond is a natural pond, and they didn't want the other 2 ponds flowing into their pond.
All 3 of the ponds on the property are detention ponds.
Okay.
They were constructed with the development.
All right, I just wanted that clarification. And, you know, and I feel for the seller who's been trying to sell this property for a long time, and that the fact that somebody spent $500,000, even though that wouldn't sway me if I didn't feel the project was right, and that they've been waiting 18 months, I'm sorry to the petitioner for that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Trustee Stylen. Trustee McNaughton?
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the great folks of Marion Village for coming out tonight. We heard you. You know, when I think about the Medicare, Medicaid population in our local community, the dual eligibles, right, that are through perhaps no fault of their own, facing hardship, with the aging population that we have, the current headwinds in the economy that we're currently facing, I take that into account as well. I think about 159th, how far we've come over the last couple of years. That was purpose-built for expansion on 159th. I think it is important to consider the local services, fire and ambulance, in the decision as well. Although I do believe it is very important that we do serve the underserved in the local community, even if it is within a 10 to 12 mile radius. As far as the flooding concerns, thank you, Melissa, for clearing that up with the 3 detention ponds. My last point is around the concerns of parking at these types of facilities and the other locations that they have. It seems that that variance wouldn't be as much of a concern due to the total number of parking spots that they would still have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Reinders?
I would just like to say thank you to the residents of Marion Village for coming out and voicing your opinions on this. I actually went to the Plan Commission meeting when they were at the plan level. We listened, and one of the things that stuck out in my mind the most was basically the flooding. And this area over there by Marion Village has been a problem for many, many years. And the pond that is there has also been a problem that this project would back up to. So that in itself, to me, you build something and then it's flooded, and then you have problems at Marion Village and you have problems at Heritage Woods. The other thing that actually sticks out in my mind is a waiting list. One of the things that was brought up at the Plan Commission was that there was probably going to be a waiting list before before the place even opened. So there really is going to be no guarantee that any resident from Homer Glen is going to be able to use that facility. So there are still some concerns that I have. And as far as the landowners are very good friends of mine. They've been customers of mine for many, many years. I know the family well. We've taken all of our cars there. So this has nothing to do with, who owns the property or whether or not it's competition for one against the other. I feel that we have ample services for our seniors here. We've been working very diligently the last 2 years as trustees to provide more services to our seniors. So I think with Marion Village and with Victorian Village, I think that pretty much covers it for me. So I'm really leery of the traffic that's going to be on 159th Street. With the berms down the center of 159th, it's causing a lot of problems. And I think these are problems that nobody foresaw when that road was redesigned, but it is causing a lot of problems. And I myself have been over at Marion Village several times and had a very difficult time getting in and out of there. So I could see that this is definitely going to cause some problems. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Reiner. Trustee Fialko?
Yes, thank you. If you look at the second page, we have a planning commission for a reason. And that planning commission has spent a lot of time on this, and they voted against this. So very rarely do I go against our planning commission. There has to be a good reason to do that. As far as turning lanes over there, as we build, turning lanes are added. As far as the flooding issue, yes, I think that could cause a problem. And I also agree with Trustee Reinders that just because you're from Homer Glen doesn't guarantee you any spot in the facility. It's nice to think about our community, and we do. And we have several care facilities out there. But as far as guaranteeing anybody, just because you live in Homer Glen, that if you get in that situation or you reach a certain age, that it's going to give you carte blanche into this facility, it does not. And so therefore, that would be my comments at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Is the petitioner here?
Could I add one more thing, though? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Just to finish, and I've said this before. I know a lot of times when something's going to be built and I see the condition of that over there, I'd like to see something go in there. But at the same time, every time something comes into this village, everybody gets upset because it's coming into it's close to them, or it borders their subdivision, or it borders where they're living at this time. And the thing is we have to think about, though, is your property where you're at right now, to somebody many years ago, that was their open space. That was their place that they wanted to leave as farmland or whatever. And that was built, and you now occupy it. And so the same thing would go for anything else in this community. You don't know what may end up there. And so I just want to throw that word of caution out there to everybody, where we're always quick to, no matter what's going in, sometimes we always hear the complaints, and so I caution everyone in that regard. But that would be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Fialko. Is the petitioner here? Thank you. Did you have anything that you wanted to add this evening? I know you had sent some emails, and there was a lot of conversations today, so I just wanted to invite you up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and trustees. We did send some correspondence today, and don't know if you received it or not, but I think hearing some of the comments today, and knowing that when we presented to the Plan Commission back on June 15th, there was a little bit of influx. There was an absent member and a newly seated member. I think that we could provide some more clarity in regards to the flooding, the parking, the whole thing about, is this duplication in services? I think we could provide some more clarity if we went back to the Plan Commission and swung back to them. That we would respectfully request to go back to the Plan Commission.
Is that any of the trustees' wishes to go back to Planning
Well,
Commission?
before we do that, could we ask, Melissa, there's a process that this has been discussed before, but just to review it with you, if we vote on this tonight and it got rejected, the possibility of coming back is what?
A year.
I'm confused by your question. Dan, could you restate it? I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, if we vote on this.
Tonight.
And if it got voted down, let's say, just per se, then what is the condition to that? Then they have to repetition and it wouldn't be able to come back for a certain amount of time?
The village ordinance that I'm familiar with is the map amendment that they're requesting, which has a time frame on it, which is 1 year. So if the map amendment request is denied, they would have to wait a year to repetition.
So right now, as far as I know, we'd have to roll back and we'd have to motion to table this so it could go back to Planning Commission if everybody thought that was the idea, correct, Paul?
I don't believe we would table it here. We would just make a motion to send it back to planning for further consideration. Why would we table it here?
Right.
Because it has to go back, because we'd be on the table here.
Well,
Right.
Remanding back, right.
okay, we've tabled things before so they could go back, but okay,
Yeah.
that's all right. However, we would do it to make it so if the board thinks that's the better way to go, I'd like to know what everybody thinks.
So if I may, I'll explain a couple of things. So because when something fails at Planning Commission, what happens when it comes to the village board is that it needs 4 trustees to pass. The mayor does not get a vote. So I have no vote in this matter. So I understand that there's a lot of questions still unanswered and a lot of things that are still unknown. And the email I had was aware of today is that you were requesting to bring it back to planning. Is that the board's desire?
Madam Mayor, I would like to do exactly that, make a motion to move it back to planning.
And I will second that. Well, yeah, he's making a motion on that motion, though.
Correct, to move it back to planning, to address some of these concerns, and we'll revisit.
So just for further clarification, if it goes back to planning, we could still end up in the same situation that we're in.
Understood.
Right, correct. But I'm just letting everybody know, we could end up back to where we are. I don't know who needs more clarification.
Well,
I just would hate to drag this on any longer if it wasn't necessary. Sure, go ahead.
I don't know what the petitioner, what you would be bringing back to the board, but the way he explains it, that he might have something. I don't believe we had a full board at that time either. Weren't we missing one?
The Planning Commission?
Yeah, we
The
were
Planning
missing.
Commission had 6 members. 1 member was appointed just previous. He did not have any information, and the chairman was absent, so it was a 3-2 vote.
That was the meeting that.
He did not have enough information to make a vote, to vote.
Then I definitely make that motion to move it back to the planning, because you didn't have all the members there, and you had a new member there at that time who didn't even know what the program was at that point. Is that correct?
He just didn't vote.
I
He just
understand.
abstained.
I still stand by making the motion to move it back to the planning.
Let me clarify. Steve Fiscal, are you speaking of? Yes. He did not attend. So
I was under the impression he did.
the way
but
this
interesting.
happened is that he was appointed Wednesday, and the next day was the Plan Commission
Correct.
meeting that had already been scheduled. I would not have even known, I mean, the appointment had not even been made the day before. So he did not have a packet. He did not attend the meeting. We did not request that he be there because there was not enough time for that. Even if he had attended, we would not have, I don't think he would have.
Yeah, so the chairman wasn't there. The new person had no information whatsoever to go on.
Mr. O'Grady?
The young man at the podium right now is saying that he will address some of the issues and concerns that the board had just brought up.
I'm not going to rescind my motion. I think I'm the one that motioned on this.
Can't hear you.
I think I'm the person that motioned on this.
Correct.
So trustee Consolino
I'm not
made the
rescinding.
motion. Trustee Mason had second.
I'm not rescinding my motion.
Right. And so we have a first and a second to approve, and we're in discussion, right?
Right,
Now,
so-
there's been some discussion about, the petitioner came up about sending it back. There's been a first, but no second. She's not rescinding, so what's before us is a motion to approve with a first and a second. That's what's before the board. Correct? Does everybody
Yes.
agree?
Which nullifies trustee Mason's motion on the motion? Is that what you're saying?
He didn't have a second.
Okay, so we're on to table, or to send it back to planning, correct? No?
We're still on, we have a motion to approve by John and a second by Kurt. We've had discussion. The petitioner came up. He requested it, and he sent the letter today. I received it, asking for it, and I believe we sent to the village, maybe yourself and the mayor, asking for it to go back to planning. He just got up and asked for it. We just had some discussion on that, but still what's before us is a first and a second to approve the project. Kurt made a motion to possibly send it back to planning and zoning, which did not get a second, as far as I heard.
Oh, okay, okay.
So now what's left is...
So we're back to
the motion
the
to
original
approve.
motion. Okay.
So,
No, you can't.
Right.
Then I will second that.
she's not rescinding.
She's not,
I'm
okay.
not rescinding, so you can't.
So she can't, so they can't make a motion. Okay, so the vote is the vote. Okay, any more discussion? Madam Clerk, please call. Oh. Who made it again? Trustee Consolino, did you have anything to add?
No,
For the
thank you.
second time, we're going to do two comments. Trustee Reinders? Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee McNaughton? Trustee Mason? Trustee Stylen?
Yeah, I just want to ask the question about the Homer Glen residents and priority. If you could address how that could possibly be done.
Sure. I might, add to that, we have about where residents come from. When we talk about it comes from within a 10 to 12 mile radius, that's our experience in doing this in about 80 properties across Illinois and Indiana. And what we're meaning by that is that 80% come from that local market. If it's more densely populated, it might be 5 to 8 mile range, 10 to 12 as it gets a little less and less. But we're saying it comes from that local market. And we have had successful zoning and successful construction throughout this region. Plainfield, which as two of the trustees visited, Bolingbrook, Yorkville, Minooka, Downers Grove, and Lansing in this area. We would have no need to pull residents or market for residents to come from those outlying areas. We're already serving those. We have a market study that I feel that shows that there's a great need for moderate and low-income seniors. Our whole mission is to increase accessibility and affordability in assisted living. And the way we do it, you create a fair housing marketing plan, a tenant selection plan, and in that plan, you make the zip code of that local community, the zip codes of Homer Glen, as a preference. So they would jump over anyone on the list because it would be a preference. So we've done that in several instances, and that's how that would work.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
May I add something? I just would like to, I can probably address, I know there was questions, I think, and if it's not being remanded back to Plan Commission, I feel like with regard to parking, I feel like I can answer some questions that were discussed at Plan Commission. I cannot speak to flooding, but I think Brett could potentially, and I know that the engineer did answer questions at the Plan Commission regarding drainage. I don't know, and you had mentioned a few other things that you might be able to address. I don't know if that's something that the board is open to listening to.
The people, the trustees that had the questions on the parking and the flooding, they said their answers were questioned, or their questions were answered.
Okay.
So they don't need to have any further discussion. Okay. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Trustee Consolino?
No.
Trustee Mason?
Aye.
Trustee Stylen?
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton?
Aye.
Trustee Fialko?
No.
Trustee Reinders?
No.
Motion fails due to the trustee 4-2 vote. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to, I know you guys probably don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, so we can take a 2-minute break to allow you guys to leave if you want to leave. Do you guys mind, or?
No, let's just go.
Oh,
They can
just
walk
keep
while
going?
we're going.
Okay. We're just going to keep going? No, we're just going to keep going. Consider for approval construction of the parking expansion project in Heritage Park. Is there a motion?
Second.
Reinders and Fialko?
Yes.
Trustee Reinders?
Okay, so this is a project that the Parks Committee, along with village engineer Brett Westcott, we've all been working on for quite some time.
That's what I said.
It's a great, it's basically, there's not enough parking in Heritage Park. We need parking for the sled hill. We need to expand the parking for the village hall based on what is going to be happening with this road here. So the Parks Committee voted unanimously to accept this. We do have the $750,000 grant money that was awarded. So I'm going to turn this over to Brett Westcott.
Well, okay.
Can we just
Trustee
see if
Reinders.
there's any questions?
Oh, pardon?
Are there any questions on it first?
I wanted Brett to fill in the rest of it, I mean, as from the engineer status. Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah, so it adds 338 additional parking spots throughout the park. Throughout the design process, we've worked with village staff to add some additions that help our parks and help our events. We've added some useful outlets to some of the street lights that'll help for the movies in the park, make things more viable for them, have a dedicated circuit for some of those electric outlets, and so on and so forth, to make things a little bit more viable. We've also worked with our Parks Department to discuss removal of trees and then planting of trees for a cost savings for the village. So we're moving those out of the project, getting a spade, moving the trees to better locations where they can be better served, and then using our tree planting program to plant new trees in there for a cost savings for the village overall. The engineering plans are done, they're ready to rock. There's plenty of detention that's being added for some of these parking lot increases and the increase in impervious. Probably the biggest sticking point is we do have $750,000 worth of grant funding to put towards this project, and that knocks the price back down to about 1.3 million, just under 1.3. So if you guys have any other questions regarding any of the lots or their placements or anything like that, I'd be happy to answer that at this time.
Trustee Reinders, do you have anything else to add to that?
I thought that we were going to be working with HR Green as well to see if there was any other grant money that we could get for this. Was that?
I think if we still want to construct this fall and into the winter months, this is like the deadline here for approval.
That's it.
Trustee Fialko?
All right. I think we've done a great job on this compared to what we had in the past. About a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit longer, there was just the cul-de-sac road going up to the sledding hill that was going to cost $1.5 million. That came out to be for 150 parking spots, about $10,000 per parking spot. So at this cost here and adding 338 parking spots with the grant money, that brings it down to about $3,812 per spot. Without the grant money, it would be $6,031.50. With the grant money, it brings it down to about $3,812, which we need the parking in this park. There's no doubt about it. The only question I would ask is we've got this thing, Rose, in the back with the picture. We're not talking about doing any extension off of page, that would be that last page in the upper right. No arc is planned on coming off of that and going anywhere near the sledding hill. This is where it ends, correct?
Right, that's the 319 grant, so we actually redesigned this so that it would not,
Encroach on it?
Yeah, encroach on it.
Okay. So with that said, I think you guys, the Parks Committee did a great job in addressing this, along with our engineer, Brett Westcott, compared to what we had put before us before, cost-wise and engineering-wise. So thank you for that. That'd be it for me.
Thank you, Trustee McNaughton. Trustee Mason?
Yes, you say that we're currently in possession of $750,000 in approval grant funds?
We're not in possession, no.
That's what I was getting ready to ask. So we are not in possession of this money?
So are
It's
you
a
asking me a question, or?
I'm asking Rose, I guess, or our trustee Reinders.
We were definitely approved for the $750,000. We actually had to go back and reapply. The first time, this all goes back to 2 years ago to Matt Walsh. Matt Walsh had told us, that's when we started this project. Matt Walsh had told us that we had already had the grant money. He said we were awarded the money. When Carmen Morella came on board, we found out that we didn't have the money. So we had to go back. We were not awarded the money. The application was not the proper application that was supposed to be filed for this grant.
Under Matt Walsh.
Under Matt Walsh. So then Carmen Morella went back and he refiled all the information. And we have a letter of award saying that we are getting the $750,000. And Villager Manager, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and it's not a small process. We have to actually do some reporting every quarter, make sure that they know what we're doing, where we're at with bid. This is a consideration to move forward with it. We still have to go out for bid for it, to get the bid package together, to get it approved, because that's what the state's going to require when we go for the grant as a reimbursement. So we're following these procedures to move forward. So when you guys motion you consider to move forward with it, that gives us as staff to move forward with putting a bid process together so we can get the bid to come back to you, and then after the bids are back, we'll present them and say, here.
Yeah, and part of the reason that we did not get it the last time was because the contractor could not meet the requirements of the bid. They had to have so many minority people working, and they couldn't meet that quota. So therefore, the state would never moved forward on that actual application. And when we found that out, that is why we actually moved to remove Austin Tyler and that whole project.
I have a question about the grant. Maybe this is for Carmen. Is there an expiration date on that grant after it seems like it's been in play backwards and forwards?
This grant has been being worked on for 2.5 years, I think.
I believe longer, actually.
It might be longer.
It is longer.
Now that we're doing the reporting requirements, there is no expiration on it, so we're actually trying to move forward with it.
So further clarification on that grant as well. We just got notification that there was, I don't know if lost the grant is a good word to use, but there was emails to the previous mayor, did not receive that email, and now we were reapplying again, or I don't know if reapplying again is the right word.
We had to re-report what was missing.
What is missing.
Yeah,
So
since re-report, we didn't have to reapply. We just had to re-report.
Yeah, there was basically a pause, and now we're back on track again.
And that grant of $750,000, that's from 2.5 years ago, is the approximate grant monies, but how has the cost gone up over that same 2.5 years?
I think we were looking just for the ring road was 1.5 million.
So I think
we're looking at doing a little bit.
I was going to comment at the end, so I'm going to save my comments to the end on that.
The total cost of the construction, and that is not only for the ring road, but that is for the sled hill, the ring road, the parking lot. There's four. It's the ring road, it's the sled hill, it's the parking lot adjacent to the baseball fields, and it's a parking lot adjacent to the village hall. So there's that in, pardon? Oh yeah, and all the lighting fixtures, yeah. But that is the whole project. And basically it was not, before it was just the ring road, it was just the cul-de-sac road for the sled hill. And that was coming in at I think it was like 1.5 million or 1.2 million. But now this is all of this for, yeah, and then some for.
More than double the amount of spaces
Yeah.
for almost less than half the price.
Yes.
Trustee Fielko, have you had a chance to speak yet on this matter?
I think I did.
Okay, let me just go around once.
Absolutely.
Trustee Stylen.
Thank you. I was very disappointed when I saw the supplement sheet. This is the first I've heard of all of these additional parking lots, especially the one by the D lot, if you know what the D lot is. And I thought that the supplement sheet was very lacking, and I would have liked to have seen the discussion that happened and the motions to recommend coming from the Parks Committee on this as well. I'd like to know how long they were really discussing it and how much they discussed. The village worked very long and hard on this park plan, which is a beautiful plan. And now we are taking it and piecemealing it and changing and diverting from that plan. And so are we looking at the whole big picture? And now we're going to be looking at a Veterans Memorial later. I'm not saying that they're bad ideas. It's just that I really think that we should be looking at the whole picture instead of doing all of this piecemealing right now. What is going to happen to the disc golf course when you put a parking lot over by the D lot? What is going to happen with all of those lights that are you going to move and the trees that you're going to move in order to put the parking by the ring road? That's going to, maybe it's not, you're estimating it's not going to cost that much, but those trees are likely to not survive. We need shade desperately for this park. I mean, we were fortunate that there were trees here already, but I really don't want to see a lot more trees removed.
Well, part of that, we did discuss at the...
Trustee Reinders, if you can just let, no, it's okay. If you can just let Trustee Stylen finish.
So, and when the cul-de-sac project was removed from the plan, the outcry was, we're putting too much pavement into this park. When I look at this, this is a lot more pavement than we had in that original plan. Now, I agree with the parking lot that's going by the sled hill. That can serve the same purpose as the cul-de-sac road. And I appreciate that it's not going to interfere with the 319 grant area. The parking lot that is by the Village Hall, that was sort of in the original plan. So I would support that.
Original.
But I really think it changes the look of the park when you put that parking lot next to the D lot that's by the ball fields. I'd really like to reconsider that and give it some more thought. I really don't think I could support that tonight without looking at how that is really going to affect the park. I appreciate that we're getting parking. I know that the fest and other events can benefit from parking. I know that too well, how much we needed some hard surfaces. I don't know if any of these lots have like a continuous 40 by 80 area. I know that there's bump outs on the lot by the sled hill. If there was a hard surface that could be used for a tent that would be utilized at an event, I'd like to know that. And so anyway, I would support two of the lots right now. I would support the one by the sled hill and the one by the Village Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Tristan. I personally think when I saw this, it's not I like the parking ideas. I like that they're all over the place because I think we need them more. I was originally for the original ring road plan that we had. I'm not so sure if those numbers are accurate of, you know, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know what the exact numbers were. It's been a while. But I would like to see what the old ring road plan was, the numbers on that. Not that it matters at this point, but I'd just like to see if the more information we have in here. This is the first time I'm hearing of this too. This was never brought to me before when the packets went out. And I just think that we could have been provided a little bit more information in the packet regarding the parking. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, we'll go back for round two. Trustee Reinders.
One of the things I could add is in relation to Sue's questions about the trees that would be uprooted from here. There's plans to have all these trees moved into other areas of the park because we do need trees within the park. So I know part of when we discussed that was a priority is that we did not want to destroy trees, that we were planning on moving them. So to answer that, as far as the ring road inside, I think there was always a plan for the inner circle parking there. Ever since I've been on the Parks Committee, we've always talked about the inner circle parking there. So that is something, if you didn't, I mean, I don't know if you ever knew about that, but
Well, we should have those, we should be able to see those plans.
Okay. And in these prices that you're seeing on here are today's prices. Now, you know, you go back 2 years ago, the price of materials has escalated dramatically in the last 2 years. So anything that was priced out 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or even, it might even be 4 years ago, but when they first started that plan, is going to be significantly different today. And if you really look at all of this, and I mean, and we could bring more detail to the board to let them see, but you can't even, there's no comparison for prices back then and prices now because everything has just risen, you know, so rapidly. So with that, I mean, Brett Westcott, do you agree? Can we bring more detail to this, to the board?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will tell you that the committee has been working on this for a couple of years. And we've worked with village staff, we've worked with everybody, and they've all seemed to agree with this. It's, and, you know, and again, it's the cost factor. I mean, we were willing to spend $1.5 million, you know, 2.5 years ago just for one section, when we're getting all these sections for half the cost, so.
With the 750,000 grant, right?
With the grant, yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
750, right?
Right, yeah, 750.
Does anybody remember how many?
I'm sorry, Trustee Fialko, you're next.
I got skipped the first time.
No, you didn't.
Just to talk, let's start with the grant money first. For one, 2.5 years was said. I haven't even been in here 2.5 years. This whole problem started right about 2 years ago, maybe 2 years and a month, I don't know. But nevertheless, the problem was, what we should be looking at is not when Matt Walsh started applying for a grant and never got it and told us that he did, and we went through this all back and forth. You have to go by the date that we received it. And Carmen, once he became the village manager, then reapplied for it. And you don't have that date in front of you, Carmen, but it hasn't been, I don't think we've had that secured for more than 8 months, right? It isn't 2.5 years, though. It's way, that number, 2.5 years is way off as far as when we finally did secure that. As far as the parking and talking about that inner circle, that inner circle parking is probably one of the best options for parking in there, because you're not taking up as much green space, and I think that's why the Parks Committee took that into consideration. You're not displacing that many trees. We couldn't start from the 10 o'clock area, the way I understand it, because there's other facilities in there that can't be disturbed, but we're able to take and add on the inner circle and make it as wide as the rest of the parking lot to the west. And it only makes sense to start there. As far as the other two that Trustee Stalin was talking about, those were in the original plan next to the building. The one next to the building was in the original plan. And then there was parking also next to that shed. That was in the original plan also. So I don't know when we start moving forward parking. Everybody's been complaining about parking for some time, but we have to start moving forward sometime. We've got the grant money. The longer we kind of sit on this and kind of kick the can down the road, the harder it's going to make it to keep and secure the $750,000. So this is just the start. Now, I don't see, and I don't know, Rose, but once we start getting bids for this, I mean, that is still that's gonna take time. And Brett, Westcott, as far as the time delay between if we approved it now and then them actually starting would be how long about?
I would say that we'd go to bid immediately after this. We would post it to bid the next available opportunity, and that it would go out and we'd have bid selections and let it probably next month sometime. So if this was approved tonight, we'd move forward with construction towards the end of this year. They would likely be able to finish a substantial amount of the work with just the surface course needing to be wrapped up next year, or depending on the weather, if there's favorable weather going into later in the year, and the plants stay open a little bit longer. I think generally speaking, the asphalt cutoff date is around Thanksgiving time, sometime later this year. So as long as they can get all the subgrade and the prep done, a lot of the lots that are, aside from the inner ring road lot, the lot extension off a D lot, the cul-de-sac lot, and then the one next to Heritage Park, there's not a lot of conflicts there. They can get right in, they can do their underground, they can do their prep, they can get everything ready to rock. I think that the inner road here along the inside of the ring road is going to be the one that would take the longest. But again, very realistic for them to wrap up almost all of this project probably prior to winter, and then just have some odds and ends to wrap up in the springtime. So that moving forward, right, we would have this pretty much all ready going into springtime or summertime of next year.
Okay, so the thing is, if we wanted to, Sue, if you have a concern about the D lot by the baseball fields, I don't see why we couldn't amend this if that's the biggest concern, just so we can start moving forward. The planning or the Parks Committee could then rediscuss it and maybe add it at a later time. But to hold off on this and to kind of handcuff our money, our grant money, and possibly put that in jeopardy, $750,000, doesn't make sense to me. If you don't like something, let's amend this and say, let's go with the other three and move forward with it, instead of just sitting on it. But I think that would be one of my concerns, is losing grant money because we're not moving forward on things, and it's been a while now. Not because it was anyone's fault, because it did take time to get that money. Matter of fact, I remember this being voted on with the other board, and it was conditional to the $750,000. They actually approved the process of getting the parking stuff, but it was conditional to the grant. So now we've got the grant, and I just don't want to put that in jeopardy. If you guys want to talk about it to amend this maybe some way and just get rid of the D lot parking, I would be comfortable with that too. But I think we need to get started.
I want to extend my apologies to Trustee Cancelino. I didn't know she got skipped for the first round, so.
From what I remember, when this got passed, when the cul-de-sac road got this, that's what we were calling it then, that was 2 boards ago, not the last board, it was 2 boards ago. And it was conditional on the grant funding. We also weren't utilizing our own home engineer. And so that oversight was going to cost us a larger sum. So with that grant funding, I don't remember what point, maybe it was 6 months after the fact, once we got into the board, that we found out that we didn't actually have the grant funding.
Yeah, it was probably, it definitely was.
And that's when we stopped the project.
Yes.
Now, I don't remember, does anybody have an idea how many parking spots we had in that last cul-de-sac road project?
There were 150.
150, and that was just for that portion?
$10,000 per spot.
Okay, so thank you, Trustee Fialco. And didn't it also kind of encroach into the 319 grant area?
That was a concern.
Yes. And that was a big concern, and there was a lot of outcry specifically in regards to that. This changes that. So with us having, and stop me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that we have the most amount of events that we've ever had now at the Village that occur in Heritage Park. And with that, it isn't just the festival. We need parking for each event. So we have to start exploring where else we're going to get this, because we're not adding any additional land. I see the need for it over by the baseball diamonds, because now the sports are very heavy over there. But I'm okay with this project going forward. And if you guys want to maybe break it up a little bit and maybe amend and look at other, alternatives with some of the other spots. But I do think at this point, it's been 2.5 years. We lost a grant because it wasn't filled out properly, from what I remember. And now if everything is filled out properly, I don't see the reason why we wouldn't get this one, because it was promised to us before if we did it the correct way. And that was the only reason we stopped this. And again, make this contingent on the grant. I'm okay with that. We're not at a loss of money here. I would rather see what we can do to at least go forward with this part, with the ring road.
I'd actually like
Trustee
to
Stylen.
make the motion. Can I do? When you make the motion on it, you can enter.
I think she's still recognizing somebody else.
Okay.
Trustee Stylen, do you have anything to add?
Thank you. I'm just trying to follow our new procedures of waiting and speaking our turn. I would support the plan removing the one that's by the sports fields. I do feel that we have adequate parking over there because they can use that other lot, and they have a lot by the sports fields. But I really think we should be looking at the park as a whole before we take up that area with a parking lot.
Trustee Mason, do you have anything to add?
Yes, excuse me. We keep saying estimated $2 million, $2,038,672. Where'd that estimate come from, first of all? Secondly, the last one was $10,000 per spot. We don't know what the actual cost per spot this time around is going to be, because that's an estimate, I believe. When we move trees, a lot of trees do die. and maybe Brett can answer this question. I don't believe we own tree removal equipment, which means we would have to rent or purchase, because these aren't baby trees, these are enormous trees.
So, to clarify, around the inner ring road, the only trees that would be impacted are the small trees that were just recently planted for this project, and they have a diameter of, I think, 4 inches or less. You can't spade them if they're over a certain diameter. So in talking with our Parks Department and Jennifer Vittori, who is a licensed arborist, that's who I've been working with in regards to moving the trees and putting them into locations where she feels that it would be more appropriate, and that they would, I would hope, have a better chance to survive. And then, again, just to reiterate, we would still be planting more trees along the inner road. It's just that we would be supplying the trees. Our Parks Department would be doing that. So would we have to get services to use a spade or rent a spade to move these trees? Yes. But looking at it as a whole, and to emphasize on the, or not emphasize, to expand on the cost and the estimate, yes, this is an engineer's estimate of probable cost. Generally speaking, these numbers are pretty close. You put some contingency in there when you put these numbers together and you're putting them, you know what I mean? It's better to be too much than not enough, essentially. So I would say that the $2 million should be a pretty confident estimate on what this project would cost. You have some variances depending on the times that you go into construction and these things, much like with our road project. Sometimes if you bid things earlier in the year, you get a little bit more favorable prices if the contractors don't have a lot of stuff on the books. But I think that, you know, you're kind of in a unique scenario here with some other projects that are going around. There's a lot of contractors that would be within the vicinity that could bid on this and come in and knock this out pretty quick. And then just back to the spade thing again, to go for a full circle here. The price to rent the spade, move the trees, and then plant our own trees was less than the cost to remove the trees and plant new trees through the project. So it was an overall cost savings to do that. And then just one more thing to add about the other extension on the corner of D lot there. Where this lot is going, that is all garbage fill. It's all junk dirt that would need to be hauled off from the site. Nothing grows there. It's like dead grass area. So I think building a parking lot there would be maybe an improvement over it. There is added detention for all these parking lots to compensate for the increase in impervious through here. And then all the frisbee golf things will be moved over appropriately. And that'll all be done in-house as well to save cost.
Thank you, Brett.
Mr. Mason, are you complete with your questions for time being?
I am.
Trustee McNaughton?
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of some more parking in that area for sure. I have the same concerns as Trustee Stylen around the one specific parking lot. So I wouldn't be opposed to moving forwards if we could implement that and also tie it to the approval of the grant. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to take a minute. I know Trustee Fialko has something to add, but this is kind of like an educational, a lesson for us, because if we would have had a lot more information in this in the past, and the ring road, and how many trees are being removed, and what size trees, and I know because I've been through this process for so long, and this side of the board has been through this for 2 years and kind of has a little bit more understanding, but unfortunately this side doesn't have any of that solid information that is up here or here for some of us. So it's just a lesson for all of us. As much information that we can give would be great. I'm not opposed to putting in the parking by the D lot, just because I know that the sports, I'm assuming that's the sports ones, need more parking. So I'm not opposed to that. And I know, yeah, and Madam Clerk over here can speak to that, but I'm not opposed to things. The other thing I have though is, when we talked about changing things in the park, we adopted a master plan in 2016. It was a PRI master plan. So if we're starting to change things of this master plan, I just think we should continue on with a master plan. Or when you move pieces of a puzzle, at some point the last piece isn't going to fit if we keep moving things around in the park. So I think maybe we should just have at some point regroup about what the master plan will be. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, we discussed it at the last Parks meeting, because we all were saying that, we all agreed that, we're putting this here, that there, that things in the park are changing, but with all the activities that are coming into the park, things are changing as well. So, and we, moving forward, everybody agreed, they're just not happy with the master plan of the park, and this is on a committee level. They're finding out that some of the things that are on the master plan just don't work for this park anymore. We have soccer in the park. There were supposed to be walking paths where the soccer fields are. We have all the activities. We have Homerfest. We have all these things, and there were supposed to be so many other things included in the park. And now with all these activities, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work anymore. So that's why we're doing things the way we have been doing. It's not because we want to change, because we don't like the master plan or whatever. It's just that things are evolving, and with the evolution of the activities and the increased people in the park, it just doesn't work anymore. So we decided that we were going to, as a committee, we were going to review the master plan again and try to decide what would be the priorities for the park moving forward and how they would fit in the park. And then we would bring that back to the board. So that was a big discussion that we had at our last Parks meeting.
I think the piece that's a little confusing is the Parks Committee is a recommending body for the Board of Trustees. Right. So the previous Board of Trustees have already adopted certain things, like a park plan and, having TRIA move forward, or PRI with this, or HR Green with this. So once the board approves something, if the board decides, yes, we want to look at this deeper, then that's when the Parks Committee. I just feel like at this point with the parking, some board members were not made aware that this was now going to the committee, who's now making recommendations that I just think we should have more knowledge and background and history on it. Like I said, I understand things are evolving. I get it. You got to move things around. At the farm, we're moving things, expanding things, everything's happening. But I just think that this is a hard decision for some to make because they don't have that background.
Yeah, and I understand that but this is something that we've been working on for 2 years. It's, the previous, and it was even with the previous board before us.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The previous board was working on this plan. So it's just a matter of, it's a matter of that's what the committees are for. The committees are to bring back a recommendation to the board. So that's basically what we want to do, is we want to bring back a recommendation to the board and show the board what is working and what's not working. So
I'm going to go around one more time because I know Trustee Fialco has been patiently waiting.
No, well, the thing is, I can tell you this, is since I've been involved with the fest, the way the auditorium is set up out there in the master plan, I don't think anybody talked to anybody that had anything to do with the fest when they put the plan together. Because if I had to bring 4 bands in a day and where that's located, it would be very, very difficult to operate that day with the way that is set into that infrastructure. And that's just an example. I have an idea. It should have been backed by the sledding hill and use the sledding hill as part of the seating structure like they did in Romeoville. But that's besides the point. What I'd like to do is make the motion to remove on that page 2, that parking section, if the board would be in favor of removing that part. Sue, Trustee Stalin did not like that. That was the only thing she really didn't care for. I would like to make the motion to remove, you're calling that Lot D, Brett? Is that what we formally call that, Lot D?
You made the motion.
Yes, correct.
Yes.
Yeah, you made the motion, and then I second. But the thing is, so I would like to make that motion to remove that lot. I did discuss it already, but go ahead. So I would need a second, that's all.
Second.
There you go.
Oh, I just snorted. So now I can call the roll on the amendment.
To the
motion.
To 3. The amendment to the motion, yes.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
And just to understand the amendment, it's to remove Lot D.
So close.
To remove Lot D. To remove Lot D from the. Okay.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Fialco.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Now, do I do another one?
So now we need a motion to approve.
So now, Madam Clerk, call them roll.
Just
Trustee Fialko.
Roll call.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right.
Okay, moving on.
You don't want to go over some more?
Number 4, consider for approval a quote from Willis, Janey, Elster and Associates, Inc. to provide professional services related to the condition assessment of the Village of Homer Glen Public Works Building for the Village of Homer Glen in the amount of $9,500. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Mason?
I'm fine with the way it looks. Hopefully, we use it wisely and go with the lower amount, provided the quality is there.
So the motion is to go with the $9,500. I think that's what I said, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Right. Trustee Reinders?
I also agree, we can go with the 9,500 price tag. I think basically, we really need to get that building fixed. It's leaking, it's been leaking for such a long time. It's got to get fixed.
Trustee McNaughton?
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Let's make this first step in the process.
Trustee Stylen?
Agree.
Trustee Consolino?
It's overdue, I agree.
Trustee Fialko?
I believe it's overdue, but this is coming back. We had this a couple of meetings ago, and we talked about including this cost into the project and just using one person. Was there a reason why we didn't explore it that way and just came back with another bid? Or what was the reason for that?
Nobody wants to bid on this until they know the structure's sound.
So there's no possibility to include it? Now, this person wouldn't end up being the person making the repairs, would they?
No, they would not. This was just what the recommendations are for the repairs, and then we would have to go out for that.
So my question again would be, there wouldn't be the opportunity just to get a contractor in here and make the repairs and put the $10,000? No, just assume it's bad,
No.
get it repaired?
They want a structural,
Why would that be? I don't
they
know.
want a structural analysis of the building.
Like if I wanted to rebuild my garage, I wouldn't get an estimate from somebody to tell me that my garage roof, I can look at the hole in it, that it needs to be replaced, right? I would just replace the garage or the roof. So I see this as kind of stepping in, spending money where we don't have to spend the money, where we can just get it fixed. Let's go through the bidding process and just get somebody to fix it instead of spending $10,000 on it that we could use towards just fixing it. Assume it's bad.
So, Trustee Fialko, if we could call on maybe Mr. Woods to get his insight as well.
I'm sorry?
I was saying maybe we could ask Brent Woods for some insight.
Okay. Sue was talking about following some kind of protocol, but...
Understood.
anyhow, Brett, if you could add to that, if they're not Brett, but Brett Westcott is the engineer, and as far as what I'm talking about, is it possible just to do that, to put that 10,000, just say it's bad and fix it?
Completely agree with you on that, and that was our initial approach to this. That was what we wanted to look into. Initially, we were going to have an analysis done, and I had the same thought process as you, as well, why can't we just get a contractor out here? We know it's bad. They can just get up there and replace it as they wish, or as they find bad sections or anything like that. But the issue that we ran into is that no contractors will touch this without an SE stamp on it. And that is a liability thing on theirs. They want somebody else to tell them how they need to repair that building. They don't want to be responsible for that. If something were to happen later on because there was a more extensive section loss or they missed something in the building and you were to have a truss collapse or something like that, the responsibility would fall back onto the contractor, and they don't want that liability.
Is that because it's attached to two other structures that are okay, and it's just the one in the middle between the two that's bad? Is that the reason why?
So I think that the truss damage kind of extends throughout the roof area, and it's my understanding that at least sitting through one of these, when Farnsworth came out to look at it, it was just difficult for them to get up there and make a full analysis. There's only a few, Mr. Woods, you can speak on that, right? There's only a few access points that they can get up there to see that. So I think that really until we can get up into the rafters with the proper safety equipment and ventilation and following all the proper safety protocol to get a full analysis to find out if there's any section loss in the rafters, if what the true damage is up there, essentially. And that's what the contractor is looking for. They want it signed, stamped by an SE, and they have a plan set that says, here is the sections that we think are an issue. Here is a solution on how you should repair these trusses, and this is what you need to do. And that allows them to bid it appropriately, right, and put a better number to it than just to spitball a number and say, well, we think maybe 25% of it's bad. Well, what if 75% of it's bad? You know,
Okay.
So that's kind of the thought process behind that.
And I believe it is a safety issue. I just wanted, for that explanation, if that's the way it has to be done before we can move forward, then that makes sense, I guess, after explained. So that would be all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider for approval the new standard operating procedure number 18, Village of Homerton policy of guiding the village organization regarding the acceptance of the annual performance review and compensation cycle.
I'd like to make a motion to table this. I talked with Manager Morella today. There's some verbiage that we'd like to get corrected in it based on my conversation with him, and he also had a conversation with a few other people, I guess. But nevertheless, I'd like to make the motion to table this so we could bring it back and we get the verbiage corrected in this and bring it back to the next meeting.
I second, and I agree with that.
I'm assuming there's no discussion on that, or is there? Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll. Trustee Fialko.
Aye.
Trustee Consolino. Aye. Trustee Stylen.
Aye.
Trustee Mason.
Aye.
Trustee McNaughton.
Aye.
Trustee Reinders.
Aye.
Motion carries. Any old business?
Mosquito abatement, again, it seems like right now, the mosquitoes are still out of control. I was hoping that we could do something about that for the village instead of everybody calling in individually, but it seems after that rain, we've gotten another hard hit of mosquitoes coming in. I know they've found West Nile virus out there in Lamont, I think it was. I'm not sure, but we want to make sure that if we could we put that call out there again to have them do an emergency spraying after this last rain here? Oh, and what date is that? This week, okay. Will we be posting it on the website to let people know that night? And the other thing is, as long as we're going to be spraying, can we put the video clip that we had back on the front page of the website? It's not on, I looked yesterday, it's not on there, so people can get all their answers, you know, their questions answered that they have in regard to mosquito abatement.
Is there anything else, Trustee Fialko?
Well, later on, I don't know, Paul, you had some things you were going to answer for us that you were going to bring back to us, include with the tree. I don't know, you're going to tell us about the TRIA report or something like that. Was that going to be covered yet today?
Regards to the email.
I'm not ready to talk about it.
Okay,
today,
okay.
but I can talk about it the next meeting.
All righty. That would be it for me.
Any more old business? New business? Okay, moving on to workshop. Proposed Veterans Memorial Project and Heritage Park discussion and possible action. I didn't get anything on this, like my packet didn't have item O, so I was just curious if anybody...
Did you get this? No?
That's okay, if anybody has an extra copy. Paul, may I borrow?
There's been a few things that we haven't gotten information on lately that,
No, I just meant I didn't have it. I might have, it could have been my fault. Maybe I just picked it up and it was on the bottom and I didn't see it. I don't know, something. Who knows?
Okay.
Who's taking the reins here?
Okay, I'll
Westcott,
start.
or Rose?
Yeah, I'll start. Based on conversations that I've had with the mayor, and she wanted us to look into the Veterans Memorial again. I went back to the Parks Committee, and we actually discussed this at length. We did a whole slide presentation we brought up the proposed plan that was done by TRIA. We brought up the proposed plan that was proposed by A Touch of Green. The committee, again, unanimously recommended that we go with the TRIA, that we go with Touch of Green's plan, that they liked the plan better. And we discussed at length the location of the plan, and I actually recommended to them what the mayor had recommended to me, that she basically did not like the location of it out in the active core, out in that area there. So what we did was I actually pulled up the one of the renderings of the park. And do we have that, Melissa, that rendering on here, on this one? The other one? Yes, this one here? No, the other one, that one there. So this location here that you're looking at on your screen, this is the parking lot that would be adjacent to the Village Hall here. Now, one of the things that the mayor mentioned was that she would prefer if we had a pavilion close to the actual Veterans Memorial for events and things like that. So when I looked at the original plan of the master plan of the park, there actually is a very small pavilion adjacent to the parking lot that is to the east of the Village Hall. What we did is we actually, at the parks level, we actually figured we could expand that and then put the Veterans Memorial directly behind it. And it would be adjacent to the community center and adjacent to the Village Hall. Now, the pavilion, it depends on, what our budget is. That would be something that would have to go back out for bid. The committee recommended that we stay with A Touch of Green, that we followed all of the protocol, that they don't feel that it needed to go back out to bid for anything, because we did follow, we emailed it, we put it in the newspaper, we did everything that was appropriate for it. So at this point in time, I would just like to open it up to the board to see what their thoughts are regarding, what the plan is.
Okay, so I just have a couple of things. Yes, Trustee Reinders and I did talk. We had a great conversation. I did make the recommendation to move it closer to the building for the reasons of, if we plan to have memorial events or Veterans Day events here at the village, those 2 months are very sketchy with weather, and as it proved last November, it'd be nice just to have something closer to the Village Hall for shelter. It also has bathrooms, running water, and all that fun stuff for the elderly who may not want to use that hole in the back. The other thing was the pavilion. We just got done saying how previous boards had set a plan. This was actually one of my babies that I took upon, because it wasn't originally in the original plan. If you look to the left of your circle, it says Christmas tree. This is not, and I talked to Carmen about this isn't the last master plan that was submitted to us, and we had a little difficulty finding it. I found the dates, but we had a little difficulty, but we're getting it. There was the memorial was designed right where it says Christmas tree. So my question on this is, where you have the Veterans Memorial now, it says nature-themed creative play area. So those are the things that I mean when we're moving things around. Like, now does the park committee have a plan for the nature-themed creative play area? Or is that something that's being removed completely?
Well, it's being removed from this area here because with the soccer in this field, and soccer wants to increase, and Russell Knack was very adamant about not taking away soccer or possibly increasing it. So we knew we wouldn't be able to put all of this in that area there. So we figured if we put the Veterans Memorial in that space there, it would still have the access points to the Village Hall. And again, we talked about if this building ever had to be extended, that it would have to go back and not up. I actually tried to talk with
See, I heard the opposite. I heard it
Yeah,
goes up
Brett
and not
Westcott,
out.
yeah, he said he didn't think this building was built for it to go up. It would probably have to go out. So with all of those things in mind, that's why we put the Veterans Memorial in that spot there.
So if you guys look where it says pavilion, that's where the pavilion would be, that square, and that's
Right.
why Rose and I kind of had that conversation about compromising the two plans into one, moving it closer, adding the pavilion, using the design. But I also like the fact that if you look right below the word pavilion, there's that parking lot that does not exist now, which is what we just
Right.
approved a couple
Right.
seconds ago, because so you could see it was on one of the original master
it-
plans.
yeah.
And it makes sense to have a parking lot near the veterans. We don't want people walking, especially veterans, walking a far distance for something like that.
Right.
So that's my 2 cents in that. I know that Carmen had some things to add, but I guess we're not there yet. I guess we'll talk first about the design, the idea on the plan, and then we'll talk about how moving forward with the design, idea and plan. Does anybody have anything to add about the design?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't see you.
Yes.
Yes, Trustee Fialko.
I always do.
You're my eyes on the side.
You know, with the master plan, it was put together quite some time ago. And it's always
2016.
good to have a master plan, but things have evolved since then, and there's, I mean, I think we can benefit from some of the changes that we make to suit the needs of today instead of, 5 to 10 years ago or whenever this was done. I know it was a work in motion for quite some time. But the thing is, I've sent Rose some pictures of the pavilion at Ty Warner Park on Ogden and Blackhawk. I mean, you can look at other things people have done in the meantime in the past 10 years and kind of look to see where, like I was in Romeoville not too long ago and saw their band shell. It's unbelievable. Toyota is involved somehow. It's a Toyota band shell pavilion. So, I mean, for us to kind of take a step back and to add things and make little changes that come along that would be for the better of the park, I don't see that there should be any problem with making those changes. But with the pavilion, and where I see the opportunity with that, where you could almost incorporate that with the backside. If you looked at the one in Ty Warner Park, they have a fireplace at one side and they've got 2 bathrooms at the other end. But if the fireplace was there and they got the 2 bathrooms in that other end, there's other places like in Downers Grove that have this curvature where they incorporate their memorial into that. Not that we have to do that, but just to kind of look and get maybe some ideas where other things have worked for other people. So that would be my suggestion, not to be afraid of changing things here and there because we've evolved since then, I guess is what I'm saying.
Trustee Consolino?
I wanted to make a suggestion tonight, since I like your idea about discussing a new master plan. So maybe what we could do is maybe we could try and come up with some type of special meeting along with Parks and Rec Committee and ourselves with the board and see if we could figure out what new direction. It also needs staff there and start to figure out what direction we really want to look with going with the park.
Yeah, absolutely. All of us have different committees. We all have served different purposes. And a lot of our committees go back to the park. So it would be nice to hear from each new committee member on what their desires are, and then bring it back to the Parks Committee to let them know, or include the Parks Committee so they hear us all at the same
Oh,
time.
absolutely.
But give them some
Yeah.
direction on what our hopes are for
Yeah.
it. Was that it, Trustee Consolino?
Yes.
Trustee McNaughton?
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Consolino that I don't think it's a master plan. I think it's plural, master plans. And I don't have familiarity with how those have changed over time, so I would like to just kind of rally the troops, as you would, and make sure we're all rowing in the same direction before we make any decisions.
Trustee Stylen?
Yes, I agree with Trustee Consolino as well. I even question whether you guys understood the original master plan. I mean, I shouldn't say you guys, but the 3 previous trustees.
We know
understood the master plan, because I think there's a lot in there that you're not aware of when I look at this. And I do support some of these ideas. The parking lot has to come first.
Yeah.
So we have time. I strongly would like to have a workshop with the Parks Committee and have somebody present the previous plan and some of the thoughts that were behind that and where we're at today and where we want to go.
Trustee Mason?
I'm glad to see that we're moving it closer finally. because I agree that the needs are there to move it closer. We keep hearing master plan, and as Trustee McNaughton had just mentioned, that it's more master plans these days. I think that the original plans were in cohesion with the overall park's view and vision. Maybe, as Trustee Stylen says, we need a workshop special meeting. Maybe we need to be informed. I feel like there's been a lot of information that has not been disseminated to the rest of the board. And I agree that, yes, the parks can make recommendations, but it needs to come in front of the board before the decisions are made. So that's where I'm at.
One thing that was, I don't know if Trustee Reinders, if you mentioned, but if you look where the pavilion is in the parking lot, it's actually not on top of the parking lot, so it would be like a beautiful entryway.
Right, it's
from the parking lot to the pavilion.
Right, yeah, it's going to be basically 50 feet. I think, Brett, isn't that what we talked about? That we were good, that we could move it, actually we could move the pavilion. Once the parking lot is there, we can move the pavilion wherever we want to. You know what I mean? We could move it forward if it needs to go 25 feet with a path to it, or however many feet that we think would be feasible. We don't want to move it too far because now, you know, you've got the veterans who don't walk very well. So we want to make sure that it's in close proximity to the parking lot, but not right directly on the top of it.
This would also go out to bid, correct?
Well, if I may, we're going to move on to that part next. Trustee Reinders and I had some discussion on this as well, but I would like Manager Morella to go ahead and speak as he...
So as we go into the Veteran Memorial, and we know there was some contentious, I think it would behoove us to not go back to bid. I think the constituents that we represent, with all the contentions that's going on, should go back to bid on this process. Now, does this board have to go to bid? That's the other question. You guys have an opportunity to do a bid waiver if choose to. So, because we are a home rule status village. But I strongly believe that the constituents would like to get the best bang for their buck, which Dan would always admit would be true. So I'm recommending, as for the staff, that we entertain going back to bid. I'm asking this board that we entertain to go back to bid, only for the simple fact that it's been such a contentious thing. And then we're adding a new pavilion, we're adding the Veteran Memorial will be a little farther than we anticipated. I don't know if we're gonna need extra bricks, stuff like that. So I think the RFP process should be revisited. That's my recommendation. Now, the board does not have to take my recommendation, but it's definitely warranted. And we're just trying, as staff, to get direction on how you want to move forward with it. So.
Okay, my recommendation would be, if we were going to go out to bid, that we have the workshop with the committee first to get a consensus from everybody.
And that would be including on design, correct?
Well, I mean, obviously, we don't have a design. I mean, I don't have anything
Correct.
from here. I've got this, but I don't have like the pavilion or anything of, I guess I'm just used to seeing everything, like the whole scope of things. And like I said, I like this design, but you also stated that the statues may come out.
Right, we just, we were talking about the fact that, the statues they go anywhere between $30,000 and $60,000 for a statute. So we were thinking if we did something more along the lines of maybe a plaque that would honor maybe the Vietnam War or another significant battle of some sort, but not actually, but put the actual, leave the foundations there where the statues were gonna go, and then actually add something to those foundations along the way. So, but there are going to be statues. There were 2 requests from the veterans for the war dogs and the nurses. So those were the things that the veterans really wanted to see in the Veterans Memorial, and those were the two statues, that one on either side in the middle of the actual memorial itself. And the bricks, with the amount of bricks, Brett, how many bricks did we have? Do we have in that memorial?
I think we were somewhere around 4,100 bricks.
So 4,100 bricks times $150, is that's what the bricks would go for? Generates
$615,000.
$615,000.
I don't know if
less
this is the
cost of
time to
engraving
discuss
and-
all of that.
Well, I just
but-
wanted to just
yeah,
give you an
'cause-
idea
yeah.
of, with that design, that, you know, that's how that would take care of that memorial.
Okay, so why don't, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has anything to add after that, but does everyone agree that we have a workshop with the committee?
Yeah.
Kind of come back, toss some ideas around, because I mean, I have thoughts on those bricks. I mean, how long is that brick process going to take? I mean, 4,100 bricks, to sell 4,100 bricks is going to take a very long time.
Yes.
So what happens in the process? Is it just going to sit there with dirt? Like, I just have a lot of questions.
No. I mean, we do have all of the specs for this. I mean, and we would be more than happy to come and show all the specs. But it seems like that we did that before, and you know what I mean? This will be another time. I know this part of the board was not here, and you were not privy to that information, so you don't have any of that. But we did discuss the concrete pad that would be down, and that the bricks would go on the top of it, and then it would be so much easier to remove a brick and put another brick in without disturbing the rest of the bricks. So, I mean, we've already gone through all of the engineering for this thing, and Touch of Green would be more than happy to come and talk to the board and let them know, you know, the details of every single thing regarding this memorial.
Trustee Fielker, did you have something?
Yeah, I see we added the veterans parking spots out there with the little placards out there. And this will incorporate into this parking lot that I'm sure we're going to have some of those spots adjacent, with the adjacent parking lot to this. But what I was wondering if we couldn't just, and this is kind of like in addition to what we've already started, instead of leaving the little wheelchair on the thing, maybe put a helmet there in the parking spot instead of a wheelchair where it says the veteran, that the helmet would match kind of like as a veteran's helmet.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That's
yeah.
Instead of
cute
leaving the
idea.
wheelchair there in the spot.
Yeah, the one that's like not a wheelchair, but is a wheelchair. You don't know if you're really parking there or
in
not.
place of the,
Yeah.
you know, an army helmet or a military helmet of some kind.
I
in
think
place
we
of
know
the
an
wheelchair.
artist that can help us with that.
Yeah. Or just an idea, anyway.
I like that idea. Trustee Cancelino, did you have anything else? No. Trustee McNaughton? Trustee Mason? Trustee Steinle?
So we're not going forward with anything until we do a
Well,
workshop?
it's a workshop, so
Yeah.
we're not voting anything. I just
Okay.
wanted to give an update.
Yeah.
And
I just
Trustee Reinders did.
Yeah, I would just question whether it's ready to go out to bid because you've changed the location. Some of the specs might have to change.
We actually talked to Touch of Green, and they were okay with the location of, you know, moving the location, that they didn't see any problems with it.
Okay.
So,
Okay, that's the workshop. So, okay, moving on to executive session personnel. Okay, I need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a
I'll
second? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Okay.
We take a 5-minute